Hello and welcome to our first developer blog about our project, which we at least currently call Autoconquest. Now, what is this project all about? So a couple of months ago, a good friend of me asked me repeatedly, "Hey Daniel, why don't we create a game? So we are both gamers with a passion, and why don't we just do it?" So I was like, okay, maybe let's see. But to be honest, in reality, I thought that's completely unrealistic and it will never happen. And the thing is that if you hear about all these large companies like Blizzard and even small companies, they usually have about 100 employees. But then again, you also hear about these smaller projects which only have one developer and they are successful. But still, I'm working full time, and I was like, no, it will never happen. It will never happen. We will never be successful, and it does not really make sense to work on such a project. Now, a couple of months later, all know it, we have a pandemic and we are stuck at home. And for me, I'm working in computer science. I still have my day job, but what do I actually do after this day job? We are currently not allowed to do anything social, so what can we do? Watch movies all night, play computer games? I mean, it gets boring, and at least for me, it feels a little bit as wasted time. So I decided maybe it makes sense to look into Unity. So the gaming development platform or the engine, I think it's an engine, which my friend was always telling me about, and I was like, why not? Let's look into it. And to be honest, when I was 100 or let's say 99.9% sure that the idea was stupid and that every initiative will result in failure, now I would say that this decreased to maybe 95% and that I see maybe a 5% rate of success. And why is that? I think Unity is really a great tool, and I was really surprised how fast you can actually get results. Because try to create, for instance, a game in Java from scratch. That's so hard. Just to move a cursor around, you will take you a week. And Unity actually brings you a lot of stuff predefined, so you don't have to do anything. You can just use the scripts that they have. It's really crazy. I was really surprised. And before I will show you what we have right now, and basically what we have right now, you can see in the background. It's not a lot, but I think it worked out so fast that I'm kind of optimistic at the moment. But maybe after another, I will tell you what we're actually trying out at the moment. So, at the moment, the gaming idea which we have is a project I would best describe it a mixture of Dota Auto Chess and Heroes of Might and Magic. Maybe you know Heroes of Might and Magic. Within Heroes of Might and Magic, you can travel a world map and you can conquer lumber mills and conquer different resources, gem mines, gold mines. And with this, you can create an army, usually an army of faceless minions. You send these faceless minions into combat, and within combat, you can direct commands and fight. So I would say in Heroes of Might and Magic, usually you don't have a lot of preparation for a fight, but the action takes place within the fight. So our concept is a little bit different. Within our concept, you also travel a world map, so this is actually very similar. And you will build up an economy similar to Heroes of Might and Magic. But what you will try to do, you will try to find followers on the world map and within adventures and quests. And these followers can join you into battle. So while you might have like 50 or 60 followers, you can select them and bring them into a battle group. A battle group has a size of 12, and similar to auto chess, depending on the battle group you have different buffs within your group. Let's say you have 2 orcs. These orcs might give you a green skin buff. If you have 4 orcs, this buff might be stronger, and if you have 8 orcs, this buff might be completely overpowered. It might be a Vark buff, and your orcs go completely rampage. That's basically the idea, that you create these really powerful battle groups based on the buffs which they have to each other. So you try to build up synergies. And what we also plan to do is that every of these followers can also level up. It's also a little bit like Battle Brothers, but in addition to the aspect that you have these crazy synergies, and we as developers won't be able to have any idea what will be the strongest combinations that will be the player to find that out. I mean, I think that might be hard to balance, but we only plan it to be single player at the moment, but that might be quite hard. But yeah, that's basically the idea. And what I would like to see, what I think would be quite cool would be if all the followers you collect could be inhabitants to your castle, so you would also have this little housing aspect that you can build up a castle and it will get larger and larger. You can go and talk to your followers. So they are not faceless ones, and they will have jobs. They can, for instance, be a tailor or a weaponsmith or a scientist, whatever, and help you out and make your little army of mercenaries stronger. Okay, and now about the game. So that's how it would work. So at the moment, I would love to see this housing aspect in 3D, a little bit similar to Skyrim. I think the world map should be two-dimensional, and that's actually how we would start out. We would start out with the world map, and the combat we would love to have it in 3D, but maybe it can only be 2D, depending on our skills, how well we are in terms of creating graphics, but also maybe we can get funding via a Kickstarter, and that would actually be quite cool to have the combat system in 3D. And the combat system, within the combat system, you won't be able to give direct commands. It will all be automated, hence the name Auto Chess, or in our case, Autoconquest. So what will be the game sense? So we want to for the beginning, we want to create a campaign. It will last about 10 hours, maybe up 100 hours. I don't know, but we want to start small. Yeah, there you can play a first adventure. Of course, I understand that the best would be if we would not only have scenarios, but in difference if we would be able to generate the maps automatically and basically have unlimited opportunity to replay, unlimited replayability. I think that's definitely a cool feature, but I don't know if we are that capable to do it as completely noobs yet. So I would really like to start out with a world map. And yeah, that all sounds super ambitious, and that's how I always felt, like it's impossible to do something like that. But if you look right here into what we created, you will see that we already set up a couple of things, and it looks hilariously simplistic what we have here, but right now that's actually the world map, to be honest. Because if you think about it, what is the world map? The world map will be a tile map, and you can see the tiles right here. So this is an isometric two-dimensional world map, and we brought in a tile palette. You can see it right here. We downloaded this. So, and I mean, it sounds so simplistic, but you have to learn all this stuff. That was quite easy. Quite easy. We had to watch a couple of videos, and then we were able to place these blocks basically within the world map, okay? And you see right here around these blocks, there are also like these green colliders. So what we also already figured out, and it was not that hard, is if a player runs around within this world map, can have objects which they cannot enter, and these are the colliders. So for instance, if we have our world map and we draw these little mountains, then we can have our player or our little army, and it cannot run through mountains. What we also have working is basically our army. And now I have to say there is a little bit of an issue, because we now work on an isometric world map, but we set up the player in a two-dimensional world map basically. So while isometric is kind of like a little bit diagonal, a normal 2D map is basically just flat on the screen. And I think we should switch to flat on the screen, and then everything, the colliders and so on, should work. So what we can do right now is we can just, with the keyboard, we can move around the player, and it moves always one tile. You see it right here. So that's what is possible at the moment. You can see now I cannot go down because there is a collider. So everywhere where we have the colliders, for instance right here, we cannot go anymore to the bottom. So this works as well. Okay, this sounds hilarious, but to be honest, that's actually what a world map is. So what we have to do is we have to change the isometric map now to a normal 2D map, which is even easier and easier to understand for us as well. Then we have basically this army, and then we can draw a world map, like all the mountains and stuff like that, and we can put this player into the world map, and then we can define the colliders, the areas where this dot basically is not allowed to run through, and basically that's all the movement on the world map. And then what we have to do is then we have to define, for instance, this dot can move 6 points per turn, and if you want to do this movement again, you have to press OK somewhere so that you end the turn and go to the next turn. So basically that's what we have so far. It sounds like nothing, but actually it wasn't that easy. For us at least, you can see the player has actually a little script which we created. Let's see, where do we have it? And you can see that we are really on a 0. We don't even have a nice editor so far, so we need a better editor for C#. So we don't have any syntax highlighting, but that's our movement script. So for the next developer vlog, I would like to do next would be that first of all that we switch away from isometric to a 2D map, and that we are able to not only move this dot by mouse, but instead that we are able to select the dot, and maybe we will create a second dot that we can select from one dot to another, so that we can select between the different armies, because it does not make to have only one army, right? If you have an army in the north of your world map and you get attacked from the south, what are you supposed to do? Run back down, and then you get attacked from the north, you have to run back up again. So no, we want to have different armies, so we need to be able to select armies or objects just in general, and then when you have the selection, you can move them around with the keyboard. Or another option would be that you can click on a spot in the map, and maybe from Civilization to have a go-to command, and this go-to command is basically the next big hurdle, because if you're, for instance, moving over swamp or snow, and if you're not using a road, movement should be harder. So we need an algorithm which basically calculates the distance from your point where you are to the point where you want to be, but not based on the distance in like pixels, but in comparison the distance in coast. So and there is an algorithm, I think it was called A*. I have to look it up, but that's actually what I would like to have within the next dev blog. And I think after we have that, we pretty much have most of what we need for a world map. And the next thing would be that we go to switch to events, that when we enter something on the world map, for instance, that we enter a sign that we can redesign, or when we enter a field where a monster is located, that we can fight the monster. But that should be part of the next couple of developer blocks. Like I said, for me, the next little step would be that we switch away from keyboard movement, or that we adapt keyboard movement and also allow the movement via the mouse. Okay, and I mean, you might laugh about this developer blog because we are so early in development and we actually don't know a lot about Unity. I mean, I know about programming in general, but I've never created a game. So we are at a complete start, and everything we do might end up in a joke and in a waste of time. I don't think it will be a waste of time, because I think we will learn anyways, and it's better than just, like I said, sitting around and doing nothing. So I never would consider this as a waste of time, but people could say we are a little bit naive. But we will see that. We will see in a couple of months. If we are still within this project, then this first developer blog will be nice. It will be nice to look back and see what we have accomplished back from this little graphic which we see right here. Okay, thanks a lot for listening, and that's it for the first part. Goodbye.